In this video, I fabricate a mount with a tool tray and install a 3-axis digital readout on my Bridgeport mill. There were a few problems along the way, but I'm very happy with the finished installation. Here's a look at the welding station. It's not very flat, and it's not a very convenient height, but it works good. Well, good enough. Well, I just test fit it and that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up. All right, I just measured right here inside the tube, and I transferred that here. All right, so this is my plug. I'm gonna cut some pieces off of it. This will sleeve right in. Yeah. Right in the end, and if I put a bolt through, it will not crush the tube. And also allow me to weld and make it look nice and pretty. So let's go cut some pieces. I can't cut super short pieces on the metal bandsaw, so I'm just going to kind of get this one in. There we go. And then cut it off. And now you can see I have a nice fit. The bar held it nice and snug, cut it off, and ready to weld. And now it's all ground and cleaned up. This washer I've kind of contoured so it fits on that. I have around 7/8 of an inch thread, so plenty of bite, and get it positioned where I want and then tighten it down. Nice and tight. But I gotta clean them up before I paint them. I saw this trick on another channel. Let's see if it works. Sweet. All right, just gonna do a quick paint job. Keep it super simple. Just a little bit of mineral spirits to wipe down. Get any dust off. And just ground all the oil off. All right, I prepped the surface with some mineral spirits, wiped it down, got any dust or grime off, so it's perfectly clean. There's also a little spot up here I'm going to touch up as well. I have some paint in this mason jar. It wasn't a bigger can, but there wasn't much left, so I wanted to store it in something that had a very small airspace. That was weird. It sealed. I did not know paint did that. So to keep this super simple, I have a cardboard box. It is the kind of cardboard that is coated in this kind of waxy stuff. So it was all pretty. We're just going to put a little bit of paint on there and clean up the edge like so. Just kind of wipe that clean. So actually use our roller to get that nice and clean right there. Save ourselves a rag and save that for next time. All right. Now, the reason I like the roller is because this, unlike a brush, leaves no brush marks. And it also seems to put on a little bit thicker initial coat too. Again, there's no bristles to kind of mush it around and make high spots. It also doesn't make any low spots. Spray paint would work too, but it is winter and I don't like using spray paint in the shop. And this roll-on paint is a bit higher quality than the spray version too, at least for the Rust-Oleum farm and implement paint. Your mileage may vary with whatever paint you are using. I really like these trim rollers. And I'm going to save that for touch-up. So there you go. If you buy the fancy ice cream in the $5 small containers, I guess that's still cheaper than having someone scoop it for you. You can get these awesome containers, you can save your roller. And this paint is oil-based, so it takes quite a while to dry. This will stay fresh for quite a while, a few weeks actually. And I'll keep that for touch-up. Just got the DRO unpacked. It's winter, so I let it warm up. Now I'm going to install it. All right, this is not going to be a how-to video, but I am going to show you what I did. First off, I got the display plugged in. I just want to make sure that it turned on, and it works. Next, I think I will start with the X-axis. This looks like the easiest one to do. I have it clamped with some 1, 2, 3 blocks referencing the bottom of the table on both sides, so I can lay that flat. I've then measured from each end to center it, and I have a second clamp very gently holding it on. Now I'm going to mark the holes and mount the scale. This is kind of a cool little jig. So I made a center punch right there. Drilled that hole on the drill press, that's my pilot hole guide hole. And I attached one end of this board to this piece of cedar, or well, pine. Then I you can see the little point there in the reflection. So I lined it up so they line up perfectly. And then once I had that, I drilled that screw right into there, making a nice little guide. So now it's lined up perfectly in that hole right there where I want to drill. I'm just going to take a quick clamp and clamp on my guide. And now I'm ready to drill, and we'll check. Or I just covered my hole. Yeah, okay, go figure. Okay, there we go. So now I can still feel. Yep, perfectly. So now I can drill that hole. And it'll be in the right position on both sides. Even though there's a bit of adjustment in the scales, I'm going to try to get it as close as possible. This takes some of that measuring out of the equation. That hole has a broken tap. And yeah, I feel kind of dumb. Should have went to bed an hour ago. Here's why. We go around and we look. See it right there? That's it poking through. When it broke through, it snagged, and then it broke. If I was completely surrounded by metal or I missed that webbing, I'd be fine. I think if I brute force the tip through, I'll still have about 3/16 inch of thread, and I'll be fine. So I think I'm going to brute force and push that tap through. I hope. Well, I don't know how, but using 2 of these tiny diamond drills, running high speed and drilling for about 15 minutes, I was able to bore out enough of the tap to push it through. This is what's left. You can see the little nib in the center there. That's the hollow center of the diamond drill. And yeah, you can tell that was horrible and messy. And the miraculous thing is that I actually torqued this, and there's enough threads where I can still use that. So that's pretty awesome. All right, I got 2 axes now. There's a look. I'm quite happy with this. I had to cut one of these brackets, and then everything went together quite nicely. I'm very happy with how that looks. There's a little step-off block. You can see it from above there. So that little block is a spacer I drilled and tapped so I can get my guard on there. so this guard fits nicely. I just finished the install. Let me show you some of the things I did. The supplied brackets were not adequate to do this installation. On the y-axis, I had to go to my scrap pile, find this piece of aluminum, drill and tap it, and then I could use one of the existing brackets to hold the reader. This existing bracket, I did have to drill some holes in it. It didn't line up perfectly with the reader. I have about 8 hours into the project so far. In about 1 more hour, I will wrap this up. All that remains is to go back and check everything with a dial indicator. Make sure that all the scales are perfectly parallel with the ways. That way there is no error in my readings. And to also install the covers. I could have easily saved 2 hours had I not broken a tap, and if I hadn't spent an hour pushing buttons on the DRO because I wanted to figure out why it wasn't reading correctly after I installed the X scale. I was confused with the settings. If you go to Setup, 2008 is my password in the book, and if you look right there, resolution 1.00. Factory default was 5.00. When it's the 5.00, that means 1 turn of the dials, which is usually 200 thousandths, shows up on the screen as 1 inch. So it's some kind of multiplier. I'm not really sure. Actually, I think it has to do with the scales, because I have 1 micron scales. Yeah, that's what it is. So the same display must be used for the 1 and 5 micron scales. Okay. Anyway, make sure this setting right here is correct, otherwise you will be frustrated. So there we go. Other than that, the only other thing to note is if things are backwards, you can switch it positive to negative. That has to do with which way you turn the dial, whether you're climbing or decreasing. Everything else I have to figure out yet. But overall, yeah, super cool. Putting the covers on, I noticed that the end caps don't seat all the way down. The solution that I found is to take an X-Acto knife and just take out a tiny little sliver in the bottom here. There is one on each of these ribs. There we go. And I'm really just slicing the very inside part here because the top right here can bend out, but the bottom has nowhere to go. So on that lower part, I'm scooping out a little bit on each of these ribs. I'm just cutting a little notch right here with some very sharp woodworking tools. There we go. That will give me the clearance I need now. And there we go, one modified cap. That seats all the way down, and I cut a little relief for the scale. To get these caps to stay on, I'm just adding a little dab of hot glue to these little pockets. And then putting that cap on. There we go. And I'm putting the glue on the plastic part because hot glue, when added to aluminum, acts like a heat sink, and that glue hardens almost immediately. The glue is not really holding the cap on, but it does make this fit tighter. It's less likely to pop off. I've tried a few different solutions to getting the cover to stick, and this is by far the most effective. And it is to use Scotch Extreme mounting tape. And I'm just splitting it in half, and I'll put a few pieces on here. Again, Scotch Extreme mounting tape. I tried silicone caulk, I wasn't happy with that. Hot glue dried immediately because, again, aluminum cooled it down super quick. And I tried a thinner tape and that didn't work. But this stuff works really well. Okay. And there we go. There's the arm. All the covers are on. And I'm very happy with how these turned out. I think they look good. I think they'll hold up nicely. And yeah. The DRO is working great. I'm very happy with it. Just one last little addition I want to do before I wrap up this project. So you can see here, I started welding up this tray. And what I'm going to do with that is it's going to get installed right here. So I'm going to attach it to that stud, have it hang down, have a nice place to put some stuff that's cluttering this up. And I realized I should probably drill that hole before I finish welding, so I'm gonna do that real quick. I probably won't keep it at that angle, but that just goes to show you there's a nice little tilt on it. It's all welded up and it fits nicely under the DRO. Time to grind and paint. Cleaned up and ready for paint. I am super happy with how this turned out. Now the big question is, the trays that I ordered, did they give me the actual size so they fit? I sure hope so. They fit. I finished up off camera. On the bottom here, you can see there's a bit of hardboard, and there's still plenty of lip to catch the tray. Tray fits real nice and gives me a lot of organization. And I was actually so happy with how the tray turned out for the Bridgeport, I made one for the lathe too. It has a light and it holds on to all of my quick change tool holders. It's a 1940 Monarch 16W. If you're interested, there is a video about restoring this. Well, that's a wrap. This Bridgeport is now fully fixed up. It's been cleaned and painted. I've added the VFD, which I'm very happy with. The DRO, which I didn't know what I was missing, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of DROs now. I won't have a mill without one. And yeah, I like this tool holder a lot too. It's really handy. Anyway, and this is just a little shield for the chips when they're hot. It's kind of nice. You can hold on to it, or the way I have it set up with the bottom here, you can set it down. Just a little handy thing. Anyway, that is it. Everything is on a switch on the wall here. There's a Wi-Fi outlet. I can turn it on with my phone or manually. Hit the switch and everything turns on. The lights turn on, the DRO turns on. The power feed is also on. The VFD, however, is still on that switch because that is 240 volt. Well, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and till next time.